With the Esplanade Hotel planning to develop the present terminus at the Parnell Place site at Christmas, time is running out. 200 drivers pulled into Hamilton Depot this morning to find out whether or not the issue was any closer to being resolved. But after 2 years of discussions with State Transit and the City Council, there are still no solutions. The General Manager of Newcastle Buses says relocating to Hamilton is not a viable option and that a terminus in the Newcastle East area is vital.
It's so important simply because it's a logical destination for our services. We don't want to be stopping our services short of the Newcastle CBD, and we don't want to be running road trains up and down Hunter Street, bringing buses back to the depot before they can start the next trip.
They've submitted a range of options to Council, but so far none have been approved. The Public Transport Union claims that unless a site is found, services to the area will be affected.
There's also a serious threat that bus services may no longer be going up to the east end of Newcastle, servicing the Royal Newcastle Hospital, as well as the beach facility areas up there.
The union will now take up the issue with the Minister for Transport, Brian Langton, and if the matter still isn't resolved, drivers have voted to take further industrial action. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
With most of the region's population on the coast, Hunter Water has been concentrating on problems with ocean outfalls. The corporation has spent $150 million on plants at Burwood, Belmont and Boulder Bay. But now, with a growing population to the west and increasing concern over blue-green algae and salinity problems, inland wastewater treatment plants will come in for some attention.
You can always spend more. The question is to try and get the right balance in that level of expenditure so you get the right level of environmental improvement at a level that the community can afford to pay.
An extra $60 million is to be spent over 4 years, the money coming out of Hunter Water's budget with no extra charges to consumers. 10 plants, including Shortland and Raymond Terrace, will be revamped. One idea is to use treated effluent out of Cessnock on the vineyards around Pecolbin.
And there are a range of options for doing that, including pumping water direct from the Hunter River, reuse of effluent, etc. And we and others are participating in a study.
While Hunter Water has been praised for the $60 million of planned improvements, the Environment Protection Authority, which worked on the deal, says the corporation would have eventually been forced to improve the standard of their inland facilities. Peter Ryan, NBN News. Concerned business people met this morning to fight the proposed markets. Newcastle Council has voted to approve the rezoning of land at Katara to allow the markets to be set up, although more steps need to be completed. Local shop owners say it's unfair and they've set up an alliance to stop the move.
Just a word of warning, we're here and we're going to be here for a long time as we have been, and we're going to be fighting damn hard.
The group has chipped in thousands of dollars of their own money for a fighting fund to pay legal fees and to investigate any loopholes in the proposal. The markets are to be bigger than the Park Lee markets in Sydney's west, with 1,000 small shops. The Alliance is angry that the new complex could steal their customers.
This is a dying marketplace. It's not self-sufficient at the moment. How in heaven's name can we approve a process like this to take place?
It's been an eventful few days at the Vickery site near Gunnedah, the arrest of 8 workers leading to a national strike. The CRA mine has been under a union picket for more than a year in a fight over conditions. Talks in the Industrial Relations Commission today failed to solve the national 7-day strike for all CRA mines. CRA miners will stay out. All other miners were expected back at work today for the afternoon shift. At the Chain Valley Colliery, though, at Lake Macquarie, men were sent home on full pay. The company had threatened to lock out workers over a separate dispute over bonuses for the workers. Miners will set up a picket tomorrow morning. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Adam Muir is without doubt a rising star of rugby league, and for the last few weeks the Knights have done everything to keep him in Newcastle. On Monday, the 24-year-old was expected to sign a 5-year deal, reportedly worth $2 million. 4 days later, a notice from manager Wayne Beavis that Adam has decided to defer the decision, adding he will be withdrawing from the ongoing negotiations. The Kangaroo confirmed the details at Knights training this afternoon. He says there's a problem with one of the clauses in the contract.
If something happened to the club and they couldn't pay, that I'd be stuck, sort of thing. If I've signed for 6 years, and say if I was paying off a house or something, and that happened and I couldn't get paid, I'd be in a lot of strife.
Today's backdown is a blow for Knights management, who were keen to secure the 24-year-old's future in the light of impending offers. But tired of the speculation, Muir wants to sit on the decision.
I'm just a bit sick of it at the moment. I'd just rather concentrate on number one thing, the football.
With his future up in the air, Muir is keeping an open mind.
It's fallen through now, so I'm not going to worry about it until the end of the year or early next year.
The Castle Lakers launched the new season at Mayfield today, with the first games this weekend. All is looking good, with the signing of 4 big-name players from Sydney.
It should be pretty good. We've been lucky enough to pick up a few Sydney players for our first-grade men's team, and I've played with a lot of those guys in state, and they're seasoned campaigners, and it should be real good.
The season is already shaping up as a bumper one for the Lakers. Plans have been submitted for an amenities building at Stevenson Park. The club currently shares facilities with cricket, soccer and baseball.
Newcastle's been struggling for a while to get a really good amenities area, and it's quite a hike for the spectators to go down to the canteen and so forth, so it should be good for the spectators.
Olympian Natalie Ward is also expected to rejoin the Lakers after the campaign in Atlanta.
Hopefully she'll come back and play with the senior women's team, and I think the guys will be down there watching her.
The Lakers will field 4 sides in the league. The women will play the Sharks on Saturday, while on Sunday the men are at home to the Dolphins. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
The aim aim of the joint exercise is to test the air defences of Australia's vast north, as well as to provide an opportunity for Australian and foreign forces to undertake realistic joint training. Bases in Darwin and Tyndall in the Northern Territory and Curtin in North-West Australia are on full alert from today. Airborne Warning and Control, or AWAC, aircraft will be used for the first time in an exercise. Both enemy or Orange forces and Defence forces will use the AWACs to test their planned future integration into Australia's defence system. But not all of the action will be in the air. The overall exercise will focus on ground-based RAAF radar surveillance and airfield defence units. Australian Army forces, in conjunction with Singapore Air Force personnel, will simulate the use of surface-to-air missiles in defending ground targets against air attacks. Australian aircraft included in the Pitch Black 96 exercise are 2 squadrons of FA-18 Hornets and 7 F-111 strike aircraft. A C-130 Hercules and a B-707 will provide transport and aerial refuelling support. Pilots and ground crew from No. 3 Squadron at Williamtown are taking on a changed role of enemy or Orange force for the exercise.
Since the state government sold the Parnell Place terminus out from under its buses 2 years ago, the search has been on for an alternative. In the meantime, the bus union has dug in its latest shot a petition telling residents they'll lose services if the terminus is moved.
Our main complaint at the moment is the petition that was put out by the bus unions, in that it had a whole lot of inaccuracies in it. Inaccuracies that really worried the elderly people and less able people and the school children up here, because they were told they needed to sign this form or they wouldn't have buses up the east end of Newcastle at all.
The Newcastle East Residents Group has been battling for years to reduce the number of buses rumbling through its streets, 1,100 a day. They want to see the terminus removed but retain transport links. The bus drivers insist on maintaining a terminus as a rest stop for themselves. So far, alternative ideas to scatter bus parking throughout the area have proved unworkable. Andrew Lobb, NBN News. In what's been described by vets as one of the worst outbreaks of the killer dog disease around Morisset, about 30 animals have been infected with parvovirus in the last month. The contagious gastro-type disease is no match for younger dogs. Several have died, others barely kept alive with medication.
Very, very highly contagious. Very, very nasty disease. Can happen or affect your dog very, very quickly. The dog that you see well and healthy in your yard this afternoon may be in extreme pain, vomiting, blood in the diarrhoea tomorrow morning, and on a very, very rapid decline.
The RSPCA says parvovirus is a year-round problem and believes the Morisset outbreak to be isolated. There's little that can be done to safeguard dogs from picking up the virus other than vaccination.
The only way to prevent this is to see your vet and put the dog onto a vaccination regime. That is the preventative, but treatment is absolutely mandatory if you want to save the life of your dog.
Wearing protective suits and oxygen masks, firemen from Newcastle's Hazardous Materials Unit were still sealing drums in special containers early this morning, more than 7 hours after the chemicals had spilt onto the Pacific Highway at O'Sullivan's Gap. The drums contained 3 different chemicals: methoxypropanol, isopropoxyethanol and ethyl acetate, all of which are highly volatile.
They're very highly flammable, and some of the acetates, if mixed with organic materials, become highly explosive as well.
At around 12:30 a.m, the Victorian driver in his mid-40s lost control of his truck on a bend, causing his load to tip sideways. A cement guardrail tore the side gates off the trailer. The drums of hazardous chemicals then spilled onto the road. 9 of 44 drums leaked onto the highway, in one spot almost running off into the bush.
20 litres, 30 litres leaked.
All over the road?
All over the road at this stage. We've absorbed that up with sand, etc., which the highway will be cleaned.
Traffic was diverted through Foster and Gloucester until the highway was reopened at midday. Police and the RTA will analyse the truck's onboard trip computer to determine the cause of the crash. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
There are nearly 6,000 demountable classrooms throughout New South Wales. Although originally designed for emergency use, they've become permanent fixtures at many schools. Now they're in short supply, and the state government wants the options reviewed.
At the moment, school communities across New South Wales don't regard demountables as part of their school.
A popular alternative is the lightweight modular classroom. With its verandas and high ceilings, it's almost as good as the real thing. Tuggerawong Primary is one of the few schools in the state using them. Parents and teachers say their new library and double classroom is a major improvement on the portables.
Oh, they're wonderful. They're nice and bright and airy for the children. It's nicer for the teachers too, I'm sure, to be working in an environment like that. They're roomy, skylights, water.
And at around the same price, $60,000 each, they're a cost-effective option. The Public Works Committee is looking at phasing out demountables and replacing them with the lightweight buildings. They'll make a recommendation to government at the end of the year. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Scone, the horse capital of Australia, today lived up to its title, the town doing its best to wish our tall, four-legged friends a happy birthday. Shops in the town threw on the champagne, while the fruit store was giving away free apples and carrots. But the celebrations weren't just confined to the human population. Elizabeth Park was a popular destination where carrots were on offer for entree, followed by the main course, a hay bale cake. It wasn't much, but they weren't about to look a gift horse in the mouth. Students from the local primary schools helped the celebrations along, the children later just horsing around. Emma Siossian, NBN News.
Less than 2 weeks ago, Adam Muir pulled out of contract negotiations with Newcastle, saying he wanted to concentrate on football, but with the ARL's new poaching laws has come reports from his manager Wayne Beavis that negotiations with other clubs will continue. The ARL and Newcastle Knights are both disappointed.
Those rules still exist. They're being put in place last week, and any club that breaches those would be in conflict with them and the league could take action.
Meantime, on the field, coach Malcolm Reilly has decided against changes to the Knights lineup in the wake of that horror run.
The guys who got us into this are the same people who are going to have to get us out of it.
The side was announced today, Robbie McCormack keeping the hooking duties ahead of Lee Jackson. Malcolm Reilly has met with the players to discuss their roles.
Last night it was a little bit more of an emotional meeting.
Defensively, Sunday's game was the Knights' worst this season, and with the side facing sudden death from here on in, the coach has called on pride and commitment.
You've got to pay a price if you want to succeed. Whatever you're doing, if you don't pay that price, then you're hardly going to get to achieve what you want to achieve.
Looking ahead, the Knights management has appealed to the ARL to change the programming of the Newcastle Western Reds game on Saturday the 24th. The night match has been scheduled for a 7:40 kick-off. That clashes with the Newcastle Falcons match at the Entertainment Centre and a meeting of the Newcastle Harness Racing Club. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
The school's students gathered today for the official opening of the new agriculture centre, designed to house a range of plants and animals. Principal Keith Francis says while academic subjects are important, it's also good to encourage other skills in children.
To have a better understanding for the world around them, for life forms, both plant and animal, and how to care for them and tend them.
The centre will be available to all students from the junior years right through to Year 12, with agriculture eventually to be introduced as an HSC subject at the school. Other students in the area are also set to benefit.
One of the exciting ventures that we're involved in here is the Farm Visit program, where we invite preschools and kindergarten children from all the schools along the Central Coast to come and have a farm visit experience where they can get a hand-on exposure to animals, which are very, very friendly.
Emma Ossian, NBN News.
Throsby Basin, the home of the Newcastle fishing fleet, is undergoing its biggest makeover yet. An old crowded jetty will be replaced by two new ones, one already complete, the other ready for the boats to tie up by the end of the year.
At this stage, the relocation of the moorings is a very important part for us because it moves it away from the centre area and gives us more room in between to unload the boats.
The $500,000 job is part of the fishing co-op's consolidation in the area. Within a year, a new marina and co-op complex is likely to be built near the new wharves.
Our retail shop, for example, will be probably twice as big as it is now, which a lot more car parks, probably 100 car parks now instead of 20, where we are presently located. There'll also be processing, export facilities, which will mean an increased return to the fishermen.
Despite crowds being down on previous marches, a band of protesters took to Newcastle streets, angry over proposed cuts to the education budget. But while the numbers were down, sentiment was still pointed. Prime Minister Howard and the Education Minister Amanda Vanstone targeted for special treatment. At a rally in Civic Park, students claimed they may be forced to abandon study, while academic staff believe lectures and tutorials will have to be scaled down.
I don't understand why they'd be limiting funds for education when it's so important to the youth of today.
I would say it would have a dramatic impact on the way we teach. We'd probably have to cancel tutorials.
The retraction of that amount of money from the local economy is in itself going to have a big impact.
A Newcastle City Council Economic Development report has estimated around $16.5 million will be slashed from the university's budget. It's also estimated around 250 jobs will be cut from the region's largest employer.
Already Deans have been asked to look at how to accommodate a 15% cut, as well as libraries and administration's been looking at budget restraints as well. So you're going to be looking at a lot of voluntary redundancies, not so voluntary redundancies.
The Newcastle University Students' Association has vowed to maintain the pressure until the budget is handed down later this month. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
It's not enough just to provide a plate that tastes and looks good. To be in the race for the AGL Young Chefs Culinary Competition, the school cooking teams from throughout the Hunter and Central Coast have to consider the commercial realities of running a cafe. Each team prepared a business portfolio for a vegetarian restaurant, along with some great recipes, then made a pitch for financial backing. Finally, the judges get to the food, sampling delights such as mushroom vol au vents, winter soups, salads and ricotta pancakes with strawberry sauce. Gosford High got the nod from the judges. Another 18 schools will be out to make that all-important impression over the next 2 days of the competition. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Studies are underway to see if the Ellalong mine can expand to survive, but capital investments of up to $100 million are needed to justify that. That with a loss of around $10 million for the mine last financial year. 320 jobs are on the line. Cessnock's Mayor Merv Pine has been saddened by the dismal outlook. Mining has been an integral part of the region's history. At its peak, 28 coal mines were in operation. For a town already struggling under high unemployment, the possibility of more people on the dole is a bitter pill for the local economy.
Short term it'll be a devastating effect on the local economy because as well as the 340 direct jobs, I'm sure there's a lot more ancillary jobs that will be severely affected as well.
The company says it can't say what will happen until a study is finished in the next 2 months. It had announced last November that difficult times were ahead. Cessnock Council is relying on tourism to take up any shortfall that may be left by mining. That tough coalfield spirit ready to take on any challenge.
We've had adversities in this area before and we've always found another direction, so we'll continue to try and work in the direction of the tourism.
Unions are sticking by what they believe to be a state government promise not to privatise the power industry. But there's a scare about, centred on the sale of Victorian power stations to private interests, about to weigh into the national grid. The opposition claims relatively small stations such as Vales Point and Munmora around Lake Macquarie would prove unviable, along with Liddell and the Upper Hunter. Hundreds of jobs could go if they're sold. Meanwhile, the amalgamation of service providers Sydney Electricity and Orion Energy into Energy Australia brings more concern over cutbacks. The Electrical Trades Union claims Energy Australia is considering downsizing its workforce by 60%, rather than the 20% targeted through a voluntary redundancy campaign running since last October. This could mean as many as 2,000 jobs over 3 years.
South Newcastle is coming good at the right time of the season. 4 victories on the trot, including an upset 2-point win over Lakes in round 15.
Our aim was at the start of the year to finish in 3rd spot, so we've achieved that goal. Our next goal is to not lose another game.
On Sunday, the Lions travel to Carl Oval for the qualifying semi-final clash with Lakes. The match expected to be a battle of the forwards.
The 2 packs of forwards will just belt one another and then the backs will take over from there, so whoever wins the forward battle will win the game, I think.
Finals also this weekend of the NBN Soccer League. It's sudden death for Highfields and Deloraine, while on Sunday Hamilton travels to Western to tackle the Bears. The home side enters the match red-hot favourites. They haven't lost this season. On Sunday, Adamstown plays its last home game before the State Soccer League Grand Final. The Rosebuds meet Bonnyrigg. Still on soccer, the Bill Turner Cup was in full swing today in Armidale. Cessnock in the yellow up against Duval. The visitors won 2-0 to advance to the competition quarter-finals. In netball, Newcastle plays Campbelltown this weekend. It's the first of the Division 1 inter-district finals. The Flyers determined to keep this year's unbeaten run intact. No rest for the Castle Lakers. The women have a big double-header tomorrow, while the men play the Bandits on Sunday. And in rugby union, the Wildfires host competition leaders Warringah at the number 1 sports ground tomorrow, confident of causing an upset.
We'll run these big fellas around and hopefully they can get tired and we can score some points.
In the corresponding match last year, the Wildfires lost a thriller 44-43. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
As the headlines screamed about coalition fee hikes and education funding cuts this morning, at their annual convention, the Young Liberals were limbering up for a fight. They say they're unimpressed with the planned fee increases that target young people like themselves.
If we're going to make university more expensive, then a lot of the community is going to be locked out.
I guess disappointed is the word I'd use.
In a bid to show they're not afraid of the party bigwigs, the Young Liberals will tonight give visiting Education Minister Amanda Vanstone a piece of their collective mind. They're also expecting a student protest when she arrives. Also on the agenda at the convention, the ongoing debate over euthanasia. Outspoken former AMA head turned MP Brendan Nelson gave the keynote address. He feels so strongly against assisted death, he wants the federal government to override the Northern Territory's laws. The Young Liberals disagree.
We think that if you're going to override state laws on issues like euthanasia, you should be doing the same thing on issues like gay laws in Tasmania.
The convention continues tomorrow. Laura Saperstein, NBN News. It's a common sight around Newcastle's inner city, skateboarders using footpaths as streets and streets as fun parks. Some residents say they're noisy, dangerous and unsightly, but the skaters say that's just a wowzer's point of view.
Do they outlaw cars because people drive them badly? No, and the car is a far more environmentally damaging form of transport than a skateboard is.
One of the skaters' slogans is it's better to burn fat than oil. They say council should be promoting rather than obstructing environment-friendly alternatives to cars. They also say skateboards are the best way for young people to make the link from home to public transport.
Yeah, it's quick and easy also, so it's pretty easy to get around on. You just got to keep your balance and stuff and get going. So, not everyone has their licence.
Current laws forbid the riding of skateboards on marked roads during the day and in any public place at night time. Proposals before council would see them also banned completely from a few popular areas around the city. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.